Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Halton Talks. You're joined today by myself, Scott Acton, and we have a very special guest. Guillem Balague is joining me to talk about his book, Rise of the Villains, and everything Unai Emery and Aston Villa. First of all, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it and really appreciate your time. I was saying before, I've listened to the majority of the book via audiobook.
And what do you think?
I have to say, I thought I knew a fair bit about Emery, but I was very not surprised. But his journey up to Villa in the earlier years, I learned a lot of information that I didn't know, and pleasantly surprised. I think you learn a lot about the way that he is now from his earlier experiences in management and stuff like that. But yeah, the audiobook's been brilliant. I'm not a great lover of books, but audiobooks are, I can listen to all day. So pleasantly.
Well, then you have to tell me, because I haven't asked yet. Anyway, hello, Scott, and to everybody else. But you must tell me, because I'll tell you the process of choosing the voice for the audiobook. But tell me how it feels to hear that particular voice.
Yeah, she very good, very clear. Obviously, you're on it a little bit at the start as well.
So the story, if you don't mind, if you don't mind starting there, the story is that the audiobook was produced a little bit late because there were some issues with not just mine but others. Anyway, I was sent 3 male voices, very like old BBC British style, neutral tone, neutral accent. And then I thought 2 things. One, the introduction is me basically telling you what the book is about. And then I disappear from the book. Obviously, you may have identified that the 2 journalists visiting Irun and meeting Unai and going to his mom's place. One of them is me, and the other one is Maribel, who helped me with the book. But I didn't put the name to it, so it's keep talking about these 2 journalists that are in the scene. Because I disappear completely from the book. So I thought I'll introduce it myself. But then I said, how about if a woman tells a story? It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be a male. And then I thought, I was sent the voice of 3 women. And then I thought, it's got to be a Broomy. So they gave me again 3 types of Broomy accent. One very strong, one hardly you could notice. It's in the middle. That's the one I eventually chose. I think she's done a great job to. It kind of doesn't it get you a little bit closer to the story?
She's got very. I don't know who it is, but yeah, she tells the story beautifully. To be fair,
good
I've got no issue. I think you made a good choice with selecting her to read it. Very softly spoken, like I said, gets the book across really well.
We should mention her name.
Yes.
So I'm gonna honestly, because she's done such a great job. It would be unfair. I don't know if you have. I'm trying to think where to get the name from because I forgot. But
I do have it, and I'll make sure I at least put it in the description.
Please, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. But yeah, no, I have to say, like I said, very very well written, and she obviously comes across very well on it. One thing you said about the journalists and visiting Unai's mum. So I'm not a Brummie myself, but you mentioned that Unai's mum learned English in Guildford. Now, Guildford is the biggest town closest to me. I live about 10 minutes away I grew up about 10 minutes away from Guildford. So I'm actually from Surrey originally. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, that is a massive coincidence that his mum come over to Guildford to learn English.
Do you open a book, whatever book, and you've got no idea what it's going to take you or what kind of emotional response you're going to get from it? That goes for novels or non-fiction, whatever. And there's always connections, and those connections through a book feel deeper than through Instagram or even sometimes movies, because you invested time and to listen, to understand, and all of a sudden, if there is that connection that you're describing, it does add meaning to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I was never expecting that. Yeah, and when I heard it, I thought, wow, okay, like that's obviously Guildford, Surrey, and it's down the road. And I just thought, okay, straight away I've learned something new that I didn't know. And obviously, like I said, the earlier years of his journey, Emery's journey, I just learned more and more about how he's got to where he's got to. And I suppose that is the point of the early part of the book before it gets to the Villa part, which is obviously the bit I was interested in originally. But yeah, the story of Unai himself is amazing, really. He's absolute genius.
Yeah, it's two books in one, Scott, and it was gonna be one originally, where Aston Villa perhaps wasn't gonna be as prominent, but then on one hand, I wanted to tell the story of Unai because he's gone through up and downs, and he comes from a part of the world that produces a lot of coaches, top managers. So I wanted to find out what that was about, which gets explored. I wanted to see what his family were about, and if that explained anything about his managerial career and decisions. And of course it does. So then I realized that the traditional biography, if you like, would allow to put the context of who Unai is. But then the more I looked into the club that he was in and the one that he's trying to influence in Aston Villa, I realized there's an extraordinary story here as well. One that I wasn't fully aware and required a lot of conversation with Aston Villa fans, with people close to the club, those that are inside the club, the ones taking decisions. And eventually it just came natural that you first explain the story of the lion and then explain the story of the pride. Pride is understood as the feel that you've got towards the club, but also a bunch of lions. You're all a bunch of lions. So those two with that name in those two parts, called one the lion, one the pride, it just eventually became the best way to tell the story. And then to put it together, all I had to do was, once I've explained who Unai is, let's see him in action. And that's obviously the second part of the book.
Yeah, I mean, before, I've got some questions written down in regards to the book, but you obviously have a book event coming up in Tamworth. Did you want to talk first?
Yes. Basically, I decided to. I had such a good time in the Witton Arms when I did the big presentation. We were, 300 plus. It was incredible. There was drums, there was comedy, there was VIPs, legends of the club, and the atmosphere was superb. There were kids and older people from all races and colors and backgrounds. It was fantastic. So I thought, I would like now to do something cozier, something for about 100 people maximum. So I'm going to Tamworth on the 5th of December, just around the corner. And it's same idea as the one in the Witton Arms. I'll talk about the book, the process of the book. I think some of the people that have read it already will come in, so it would be more of a conversation. And I'm still hoping, I haven't asked yet, but I will ask the club for a guest. And if that's the case, I'll tell the world soon who that will be. Somebody that can, again, tell the story of the club from a point of view that you wouldn't have heard regularly. There will be books to buy, books to sign, T-shirts to sell. And again, same as in the Witton Arms, the money that I raise will go for Biggles United, the club I'm the chairman of, always in need of support. And that will be a way of fundraise, have a good night out, and find new friends and talk about writing. There's also, for those that cannot make it to Tamworth on the 5th, 7 p.m., there's also a couple of book signings, and also you can buy the book at the club shop in Villa Park after the Young Boys game on the 27th, and also before the Arsenal game on the 6th of December. And finally, if you are in Biggleswade or near Biggleswade, near London, next Saturday, the 29th, I'll have an hour or so after the game, after Biggles United men's first team game, to talk about the book, sign books, buy books. So those four are the last events, really. After that, I think that's it on the way to Christmas. But the biggest one, the one I'm really putting a lot of effort to is the Tamworth one on the 5th of December.
Yeah, I do actually know a couple of people that are going along to the Tamworth one.
I haven't said it yet. Sorry, it's the Pitches Bar. I think it's called. All the details are on my socials, and I'm sure you'll share the poster yourself.
Yeah.
So
we've already, I think I've put it up on a couple, both of them actually, one at Biggleswade as well, and I'll put it back up again. In terms of the book, I mean, how did it come around? Was it something that you were looking to do solely on Emery, and then, like you said, it went into Villa?
So books chose you at this stage of my career anyway. I may have originally ideas and try to sell them, but it doesn't work like that anymore. So I've got a very close relationship with the publishers, with Orion. In fact, I'll have to leave you in about 35 minutes because we're doing an author's party. They basically just give us free food and drinks all night. And it's an opportunity to share time with other authors and moan about, deadlines and having to write and ignore the world and all those kind of things, and the joy of doing it as well. But yeah, with Orion, they don't let me breathe, and I am somebody always looking for projects. So once I finish one, it's like, what do you want to do now? And we are in that process of trying to decide who the next book is going to be about. And that process took place about 3 years ago. And we were looking at different possibilities. And it came from Orion themselves saying, how about Unai Emery? And I thought, it happened to me with Pochettino as well. I'm so close to Unai that I thought, okay, yeah. Let's see what, if it'd be interesting to people, and let's see how deep I can go into his story, and if he will help me, a lot of things. And everything that when I started approaching the project was positive. Doors were open. He will obviously said at the beginning, I've got no time, but he found time. And that's how it goes. So it was Orion suggesting, let's do this. And as I said, once I started doing the research for the biography of Unai, I realized I have to tell the Aston Villa story, at least the modern story of Aston Villa.
Yeah. Before obviously you started doing the book, what were your initial thoughts before Villa? Obviously looking from afar, or did you not really have any thoughts on Villa?
Well, when this is going to sound horrible, but when you are in Champions League grounds through CBS work, or you have to deal with La Liga for La Liga TV, or for the BBC, you tend to deal with either, when you go match of the day, or you write blogs, or you are on the Euro leagues, you deal with the bigger clubs, or the ones that have got that more, how can I put it, more better known clubs. So in a way, in a weird way, Aston Villa, even though I've been in England since '91, and in the last 15 years I've been living both in England and Spain, but very often here, it'd gone under the radar. And there was a time where there were one or two Spanish players or directors there that I could just approach and talk to. But generally, I didn't have any professional relationship with Aston Villa. And then Unai comes, and not only he does come, and he's perhaps the manager who's spoken the most in my career, but then he gets surrounded by, I'd say, 4 or 5 people that I consider my friends that join him. So all of a sudden, it was a project that I was interested in, no matter what other job I had to do, just on a personal way. But when I started really the process, the journey, and got together a bunch of creators and podcasters in that pub in Birmingham, I heard a lot of things that were new to me, and then that continued. I found out what Aston Villa were about. Every club has got a story, an angle, a way of telling their own story, and also I wanted to know about Birmingham and about Aston, about the district. So I learned a lot of things that obviously had no idea about. But that's part of the enjoyment of starting a book. You go there with no preconceived ideas, and you fill your head with stuff, and then you just have to put it in book format. And yeah, that's what I aim to do.
Yeah, I think this is right, that you two first met when he was working for Almeria.
Yes, we met there. It was on passing, a couple of conversations, nothing serious. Then he went to Valencia and started making an impact. And I was in Sky at the time, and Sky allowed me to travel to Spain to do interviews every week. So 3 days of my week will be going, say, to Valencia, and then it would be to do a half-an-hour interview, which became a 3-minute television piece. This didn't go anywhere. There was no web page, there was no social media, just 3 minutes. So 3 days of my life became 3 minutes on television. But it allowed me also to take Unai for dinner, have long chats before and after the interviews, and basically he picked very quickly that, as he calls me, I'm a manager's writer. So somebody that is more interested about managers than players. And I think he saw in me somebody that could get information about the Premier League and also how he was perceived by the outside world, both in Spain and England. As you become educated on media profile and in communicating and all that. So I provided all that, and in exchange, he just kept in touch, and I knew he was coming to Aston Villa. As I said many times, you end up publishing 10% of what you know. Even though I knew it was happening, I didn't deal with it until it all came about, because I felt breaking news here is not that interesting. What it would be interesting is to follow the story close up, which is what I did, not knowing that there was a book next to it, but eventually that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Villa obviously should be really grateful that they ended up getting him. Reading the book, obviously Nassef Suarez was a huge part of that, and probably more so than Wes Edens. I mean, the Newcastle job, I know you touch on it. It seemed like it wasn't close, but Villa and Emery just seemed like a perfect fit. Did you?
No, it was very close. Newcastle
Yeah.
was very, very close. It's just that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
The biggest decision makers at Newcastle spoke to him, but it wasn't the right time. Villarreal had a job to do, but also it didn't feel right that stories started coming out about him taking charge of the side. These stories were coming out as Villarreal were playing in Europe, and he found out that those leaks had taken place. He didn't like that, and that's not really a way to start. You as a manager, you are your strongest at the moment where you start with a new club. After that, you start losing authority, unless you are Unai and you do the kind of thing that is done. But you start losing authority. So if you're going to ask anything, if you're going to check or test the club, that's the best moment. And he felt that Newcastle wasn't right for him.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I feel like from the outside looking in, Villa and Emery are a perfect match as such. I was trying to figure out, going through as you went through the book and the teams that he's managed so far, what his Villa team now, what team is the most like the one that he had in the past. Would you say it's Seville, or would you lean for another team, or not a team in particular?
Villarreal. So the story goes that Villarreal, he changes the way he approaches the games, changes the structure of the team, changes what he demands of the players, and that was the beginning of a new Unai Emery. So Aston Villa is a continuation of that to a new level, because you've got players that are more physical than he had at Villarreal. They of course have been long now with him, and they know what he requires. There's been a filter if you're not good enough or don't fit in, or just basically, for whatever reason the club has to sell you. That's the filter. But eventually the ones that stay with Unai are players that know exactly what's required, and that allows him to keep growing. Certainly he would like in every window to have 2 or 3 players that challenge for positions. That hasn't been the case this summer so much. But it has to happen if you want Aston Villa and Unai to grow. But yeah, it's the continuation of a process of understanding the game differently that started at Villarreal. So that will be the comparison.
I've got written down here how important was the Villarreal job to him in the continuation to Villa. How important do you feel that was for him to go to Villarreal and obviously be a success again?
Yeah, his choices have been good from then on. Or obviously two choices. Going to Villarreal meant getting closer to his son, going to a part of the world he knew, where he was in a way as big as the club, if not bigger, because of the experience that he had, which allowed him to gain a lot of authority and respect straight away. Having had not so great experience at Arsenal, it was important that regained that confidence in his decisions. But many would have just gone with what they knew, with it tried and tested, and just continue doing that brand of football that had took him to PSG and to win Europa Leagues and to Arsenal in the Premier League. But instead, he after a process of reflection, he decided to go a different way, and obviously it needed to succeed. So on a personal level, Villarreal became a place to grow, and on a professional level, it was a test that succeeded and allowed him to go back to the Premier League, which of course it was always the plan.
Yeah, I found it interesting. You talk about his first game against Man United, where obviously we win the game. The Villa fans are obviously loving life. We never beat Man United, but that Emery wasn't happy with that performance because we've now learned as Villa fans, and he's educated all of us, about control. Always been in control, and the way that we play. I just found it interesting that he wasn't happy with that performance, although we got the win. And I think that says a lot about how obviously he sees it and how we wanted it to be going forward.
There's somebody ringing. Just a second.
There's a go.
Otherwise. I cannot share with you who it is, but
It's okay.
It's familiar to you. So I'll have to bring him later. So what were we saying?
The Man United game.
Oh, yes. Yeah. If there is an example of a game where result doesn't matter, or doesn't matter as much as the performance, that was the one. So people get very, very focused on results, and depending on the result, like not great 5 results at the beginning of the season, and the mood changes completely. But what you have to look into is performance more often than not. In this case, fans were right in being a little bit worried because the performances weren't great. At the Manchester United game, the performance was not what Unai wanted. The result was. So sometimes a good result doesn't mean happiness. Going back to the beginning of this season, they were right in worrying the fans. They were wrong in questioning because, and perhaps I was influenced by being in the camp for a whole season, but there had been enough evidence to suggest that Unai could get out of that difficulty of a month and a half or whatever it was, in which the atmosphere wasn't great. But maybe some doubted. I'm not sure if it was the majority. In any case, yes, there was worry, but that worry should have come hand in hand with, but Unai will know how to come out of here, which of course he did. And the run of wins now is just extraordinary.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't in the camp of that. I remember there was a few murmurings, and we said on the podcast that if you actually strip it back and look in a wider picture, can Villa even get a better manager than Unai Emery? Because the level that he is on as a manager is off the chart. I've never seen it in my lifetime supporting Villa. Yes, like you said, the performances weren't great, but we saw last season when we went through a bit of a dip that we come out the other side, and we're obviously recording this after the Leeds game, and we sit 4th again, and probably going under the radar again this season because of the start. just chipping away. I think that's 6 wins in 7. Probably how Emery likes it, because I don't think, I think he come out yesterday and said we're not top 4 contenders, and trying to play it down. But yeah, I mean, the people that were doubting him at the start of the season, I think we're obviously jumping the gun a bit. And again, reading the book, he's obviously come through so many times where he's had little moments in his career where there might be a dip and there's a lot of people on his back doubting him, and he always seems to obviously come out the other side of it.
Not always, but certainly at Aston Villa he'd done it enough times, and he'd certainly punched Aston Villa above the weight. So it's interesting to see that one time where actually was below the standards and below the expectations. It was interesting to see people's reaction. But meanwhile, in the camp, they were trying to isolate themselves from it and continue working the same way as always, which is to correct mistakes, to push people. I think he's got it in him to be, as he calls it, he uses the word responsible. He's got a club to run, and he cannot be down for long, even though he gets down like everybody else. But he hasn't got a lot of time to actually turn it around. So he had done it before. He's got enough weapons and energy to turn it around. So nobody should doubt. It's as simple as that. But of course, football is a funny business, and people forget very quickly. They've got small, short memories.
100%. One of the big talking points in regards to Villa in the summer was Monchi leaving, and then Roberto Alabi coming in. I know they worked together at Almeria. Do you think going forward we'll see a slight change of direction in terms of transfers and stuff like that under Alabi?
I think Monchi quite clearly was very, very focused on the now, but had an eye on the future. Perhaps that has been readdressed, and considering the financial limitations, that has meant that the medium term has taken a step forward in terms of priority. Not the biggest priority. It's all about now, quite clearly with Unai. But with Roberto Alabi, you can prepare a future, which goes via developing players, and in that way not having to spend so much on sorting out the profile of players that is required for the reserve side, for players that are maybe step behind the first team, and what to do with them. All that now, it's got more attention from the club, and quite clearly as well in the case of Monchi, 2 years with Unai Emery are very long years. So he has a project back home with his hometown team, very modest, that he wants to take to be professionals, and perhaps when Sevilla changes ownership, he may take on again the role of director of football there, or a similar role, maybe even president. Who knows? But he did very well. Perhaps the tensions of this summer have to do with the limits, and when there is limits, you cannot, you cannot get first and second, third option sometimes, and that of course creates a bit of tension.
Yeah, I think obviously FFP is a completely different podcast episode.
Yeah.
Which I think Villa fans are obviously sick to death of hearing about it and whatnot. Is there, I suppose, my final couple of questions? We've obviously got close in the last couple of years in terms of silverware. Do you think that he has an end goal in terms of? I know you say it in the book, when he was at Seville, he kind of felt like he'd run his course and that that time was done. Do you feel like there is an end goal in sight? I'm not saying it this season or the next season, or do you think that he's got certain things that he'd love to achieve before he actually moves on eventually?
I don't think that's how he looks at it. He looks at maximizing the potential of the side. He's built a club. He's been given the reins. He's taken a lot of decisions and has brought a lot of people in, and he feels that responsibility to actually return that into success. Is how you measure success. Yeah. I know there's a focus on silverware in the Anglo-Saxon world, perhaps more than in the Latin cultures. You expect Barcelona and Madrid to win, perhaps even Atletico Madrid. You don't demand the same of everybody else. This is Aston Villa. You don't demand them to win a title. if he was a Spanish team, he wouldn't demand them to win a title. But this narrative of, unless he wins a title, this era would be wasted or not good enough, or what an opportunity. I think you should see success in a different way. You should see success as, where was Aston Villa before and what is it now? And when he leaves, what legacy does he leave? Does he leave a club with a clear structure and a clear systematization of the processes? So if you take the people, the processes are still there. You just bring the right people and continue the process, if you like. That would be very good. What I told him, though, is that a title will give him a statue outside Villa Park,
Yeah.
but continuing the way he's doing now will allow the club to compete for a long time and put both in the balance.
Yeah.
Right? He wants to be in Europe every year. That is, in a way, his title. And then once there, well, he's won the Europa League before. Maybe not. Why not now? But is it the target? Is it the objective? Is it the only objective? Certainly not.
Yeah, no. I mean, like I touched on it at the start, I think I'm now 37, and in my lifetime, I've not seen a pedigree of manager of Unai Emery. I think he's just an absolute genius at work, and Villa fans need to sometimes remember how good he actually is, and where, like you said, where we started to where we've now ended up. And it's not a straight line. It's a bit of a curve and then a down and an up, but from where he's taken us to where we are now, I think, I honestly don't think he gets the credit still in maybe the wider community that he probably should. How do you feel on that? Do you think he gets?
I think he's now considered, after he's done what he's done at Aston Villa, is considered one of the top managers in the world, the best representation of the positional football that has been so successful in recent years. You only need to talk to the other managers, and the respect is absolutely there. Okay, he's not Jose Mourinho in terms of how he deals with the media and the headlines that he produces and the clips on social media, but that's not the kind of guy that he is. He does put bricks one after the other to create big walls and big palaces and big houses in which everybody can be comfortable, and he can help you grow. But putting bricks is not such a sexy thing. But I can tell you, in the industry, he's very, very well respected.
Yeah, I think Villa are so lucky to have him. He's just a genius at work. I've wrote down a few players, and I'd like to just get your opinion. Obviously, at the moment, Ollie Watkins is going through a bit of a barren spell. You touch in the book about Negredo in his early years and Cavani when he was at PSG. Do you think that he finds a way of making Ollie find his scoring streak again?
I think the club has to help. To have a player in that position that is close to Ollie, so there is a competition going on, like it happened with John Duran for a while. It will help Ollie himself. I'm not sure if Ollie is one of those that appreciate to be taken out of the team and the meaning of that. But to be honest, in the way that it's been explained to me, he's such a nice guy that he may be pissed off about not playing, but certainly he's going to put double the amount of work to actually go back into the team. So to have somebody to challenge him would be good. I know that different things have been tried on to put a number 9 or false 9 or whatever it is, sometimes to replace him, but that is not fully his fault. But meanwhile, well, there's nobody there, or the number 2 as a 9 is miles away from him. He's got to do a job, and he's got to continue doing the things that he's been asked to do before the game and during the week, and he does that. But of course, freshness is important as well, especially if you are forward, and confidence too. And I think it's perhaps a little bit low on that, and you also know strikers, 1 or 2 goals, and that mind frame may change completely.
Yeah, he definitely needs a goal. That's for sure. The final one for me, as your now perspective change now that you've learned a lot more about Villa as a club, obviously the fan base, the history. what's your overriding kind of feelings towards Villa now?
Yeah. They become the people within the club. They've been so helpful and still are, because we're promoting the book, and keep an eye on a video that's coming out tomorrow. I feel close to what's happening there. I understand the better than ever the kind of word that goes behind every single game. I understand as well the consequences of not winning. Not just to the manager or the players, but everybody else around. I understand the leadership that he provides. I understand more about Basque coaches and about the Midlands and Birmingham as a city. So, yeah, it's been a rich experience. Still got to do an update at the end of the season. That always happens. First, the hardback comes out, and 12 months later, you've got to include another 10,000 words, which will be a little bit of a story of this season. Perhaps I haven't decided yet, but I'm following Aston Villa closely, and I already got enough information to put something out there that could be interesting and to keep the book alive. But right now is about hoping that people pick the book, read it or listen to it, learn about what's going on behind the scenes, deal better with defeats as a consequence, understand the manager and the players better. And if we achieve that, it will be a success for both the club and myself, because being an authorized book and having been in the canteen and in the games so often, I had also, using Unai's word, a responsibility to actually come out with something that explained a lot of things. And I think we managed to do that, thanks to the amount of information that I got and the amount of love I put into it, because it's a very lovable club. And the people inside, they're just magnificent, very, very dedicated, committed, and in love of the club. So, you can only be in awe of people when they deal with a football club that way.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think the whole book is written with a great deal of detail. Even like I said, the early part before I even got to Villa, I've learnt so much about, like I touched on, Emery's journey, different situations at different clubs, and family life and stuff like that. I would highly recommend it. I mean, in terms of a Villa book, I think it's a brilliant book. You've done a really good job.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Need me to tell you that, but yeah, no, it's been a really pleasant listen for me. But yeah, just learning more about Emery. I would love him to be manager for the next 5-10 years and really leave a legacy. Whether that happens or not, we never know. We don't know what's around the corner. But I mean, yeah, I hope that he knows the kind of the feeling that he's leaving on Villa fans. And he's making, like, I sit next to my dad at Villa Park. He's kind of given like a re-education of football. So like my dad would be like, just clear it, the first few games, and it was like, you need to get used to that. We're going to keep playing, and we're going to keep playing that way. He's not going to change how he plays. So I do hope that he has a genuine understanding of what he's done to Villa fans, and how Villa, we go to games expecting to win. Our record at Villa Park is brilliant. I hope he appreciates that the love that Villa as a fan base has for him.
I think he does.
Yeah,
for certain.
Yeah. Right. I think we'll wrap it up there. Look, I honestly, once again, thanks for coming on. For me, I remember watching you as a kid on Revista La Liga. So have you on? Honestly, I was buzzing when you said that you'd come on. So,
well, you've been very insisting, so I appreciate that as well. And and you read most of the book, which is also appreciated.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. You're a legend, really, a legend of Spanish football. So when you, like I said, I've told a few people that you were coming on, and they were all like, "Wow, I remember watching him or do Revista La Liga as well." So, buzzing to have you on. I hope that the rest of the stuff at Tamworth and Biggleswade goes well.
Thank you.
I'd highly recommend the book. So, anyone that's not read it, go and buy it. Go and listen to it. And all left to say is up the Villa from me. And thanks for watching.
All right.
Oh, I'll end it there.